I exposed my parents' blatant theft to the entire family about when they stole my money. What did they do in return? Show up and start throwing Monopoly money at me. Here's exactly what happened. This happened in 2015. I was 18 and about to move out of my own. Prior to this, I had a savings account my parents helped me set up. I've been putting money into it any way I could for 3 years. Birthday money, odd jobs, part-time after-school job washing dishes, all that stuff. And I've managed to get a few thousand into it. I'd really been wanting to move out because I have 2 little brothers that absolutely drive me up the wall. My parents loved making me the live-in babysitter whenever I was working, which is why I used the excuse to work as much as I could. When the time came that I wanted to move out, my parents said they wanted me to stay because they needed my help, and were wanting me to start paying rent to help with bills. But I held my ground that I wanted to live on my own. I'd already paid the deposit and the first month's rent on the apartment without telling them, and by that point I had a local full-time job, so I was set to move out about after another month. So when they found out, they freaked and told me to get out that day if I wanted to be on my own so bad. I packed what I could and left to go to my aunt and uncle's house. It was a 4-mile ride with a bicycle that I had a small trailer hooked to. When I told my aunt and uncle what happened, they were very angry and took me in right away. A couple days later, I went to withdraw all the money from my account and saw that it was empty. My parents had come in the day prior and cleaned it dry. All the bank could do was give me a balance statement saying so. Because my parents were also co-signers of the account, that meant they had access to the money too. I was livid, and immediately told my aunt and uncle what happened as soon as I could. They were both angry too. Then my aunt got an idea and started calling up other people in the family to tell them what my parents have done. It wasn't long before the shit hit the fan. My other aunts and uncles, cousins and grandparents were all furious and let my parents have it. I don't know what kind of excuses my parents gave them, but it didn't work. The next time I saw my parents, they showed up to my aunt and uncle's home to yell at me. When they saw me, my mother threw some money at me and called me an ungrateful brat for telling everyone. My aunt then said it was her who told everyone, not me. I looked at the money they thrown at me and it was just some kind of kids' play money from a Monopoly game. I asked where the real money was, and my parents said they already used it to pay off a credit card. I said I wanted the money they stole back for real, but they refused and said it was their right to take it since they opened the account for me and still have a job. My expenses and the moment, they were fine because my next paycheck was deposited into a new account, and I was able to save until the apartment was ready. But my parents took a lot of heat from my aunt and uncle until they left. My cousin also used to babysit for my parents when I was busy, and she not only refused to do so again after what they did, but told me she put on the word to the other teen babysitters on social media to avoid my parents because they were thieves. By the time I was living in my apartment, my parents finally could not take the social stigma anymore and met me to compromise. They said they could not pay me back at all, not at once at least, and asked for a payment plan. I had the exact number on the amount they've stolen and said I wanted it all back. They actually tried to haggle me down to half the total, but I refused to do anything but the full amount. They reluctantly agreed and gave me $200 a month in cash for 2 years before it was all paid back. Now, I barely ever see my parents, let alone speak to them, and they clearly still blame me for what happened, because their reputation in the family never recovered. But I don't care. They were thieves that paid the piper. I'm just glad in the end these horrible people were paying back all the money that they stole. Drop your thoughts down below of this exact scenario, and let's take a look at the next story. It's entitled Mother Hits My Car and Blames Me for Drunk Driving. Guys, I've read this entire story, and let me just say, this woman is a complete 100% Karen. Let's get right into it. So, a little backstory. I have a really nice gray Land Cruiser that looks like a monster truck, and it cost a lot of money. I live in a pretty good neighborhood, but it happens to be right next to the most busy road in my area. Also, I was underage when it comes to drinking, so I never really had alcohol in my life, unless I was at church. So, let's meet the cast. EM, horrifying excuse for a mom. PK, poor kid not really playing a part in the story. PO, police officer, aka my guardian angel, and me, most lucky guy in the world. Alright, let's start. So, I get a message from my coworker saying that there's a problem at work and I better come over. I work at a computer repair shop, so if there's a problem where they have to call me, it's usually $100 or $1,000 problem that requires most hands on deck. So, I get out of my house, get in my Land Cruiser, and drive off a bit in a rush. A few minutes pass and I'm about 3 miles from work. I stop at a red light in this really busy intersection on the most busy freaking road in the entire country. There are car crashes here almost every day, and one time it happened twice in one day. So it's no surprise that I got into one of these intersections. So the light turned green and I was in a rush, so I was well in front of the cars behind me. Then, just as I'm about to clear the intersection, a big red minivan T-bones me, and we both go sliding in different directions. I'm almost passed out because of shock and looked out my window to see who dropped a missile strike to the right of my car. I get out of my car and it's in pretty bad shape. There's a huge dent right next to the passenger side, door and glass is broken on the mirror. Luckily, nothing else that's visible. Enter entitled Mother and Poor Kid. What were you doing, trying to drive ahead like that on a red light? You could have killed me or my baby in that crash, and we have a very important birthday to go to. I'm so sorry, but it was a green light for me, not for you, and I had the right of way. No, you didn't have the right of way. We had the right of way, not you. Well, explain to me how you had the right of way, please. I don't have to explain to you, you drunk asshole. Are you going to pay me for my car or what? Her car, the red minivan, looks almost like the front of it was blown up, then rammed by 100 bulls and a couple wrecking balls. I'm honestly surprised that she and her son survived, because the driver's seat headrest was impaled by a piece of metal. Satan is the most likely protecting his hail spawn from any harm, so she can be the biggest Karen this world's ever seen. No, you're going to pay for it, along with the damage you did to my car. I guess this was the wrong thing to say. Excuse me, you drunk bastard. You honestly think I'm going to pay for this, you shitty crappy truck that you and your drinking buddy probably pulled out of a trash pile? Yeah, Trick. How dare you treat me like that in front of my kid, you stupid piece of crap. My darling should never be exposed to your potty mouth. Your mother probably left you for dead because you were the most ugly piece of crap in the whole family of 20 kids, and the orphanage that you currently live in got tired of your bull crap, so they gave you $100 to go buy this piece of crap lump of metal with wheels. That's it. I'm calling the cops, if someone hasn't already done so. Mommy, please stop harassing him. He's done nothing wrong. He's done everything wrong. About 10 minutes later, lots of yelling and 3 cop cars and an ambulance arrive. Excuse me, sir. What happened here? Well, It was horrible, officer. This man was drunk driving and ran a red light which was clearly visible and almost killed me and my baby. That's not true, officer. This woman's clearly lying to you, and you can see that I'm sober, and there were a ton of witnesses to the accident. And they can also tell you that she's in the wrong.
Well, I might as well check both of you and the security cameras.
There's no need to do any of that. We'll just change info,
I'm sorry, ma'am, but it is required that I know what happened and which of you's in the wrong, so we'll be watching the cam footage together.
The police officer found the accident and saw that entitled mother was clearly running a red light, and she was speeding by at least 20 miles over the limit. He then checks us both with the breathalyzer, and I'm sober. But she was the equivalent of having both eyes closed and driving with your feet drunk. They even found a bottle of Jack Daniels in the passenger side back seat, half empty. However, the best part is still to come. Turns out she was never going to a birthday party. She was actually leaving the city. Oh, why, you ask? Because turns out she had 3 pouches of cocaine, worth maybe $2,000 in her trunk. Does it end there? Oh, no. She was packing heat, and quite a bit for my state. That's right, police found a loaded handgun with a 6-inch switchblade in the center console. Combine all that and you get $5,600 in repairs to my car and a couple thousand more of reprimands. 10.5 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and plenty of parenting classes. Not to mention the several $100 speeding ticket she received before they found the drugs and weapon. Entitled kid was sent to his blood father, who actually divorced his mother because of the drugs and alcoholism. Personally, I wouldn't even call that waste of human a potential a mother. She brought her only son on a drug trafficking trip. Sorry this story is a little long, I wanted to list every detail possible. My car's now fully repaired, and me and the police officer are good friends now, and we talk about this incident often. Thanks guys for listening. I think the worst part of this entire story was the poor kid, who has to put up with this entitled Karen for his whole life. Let me know what you guys think of this situation. I think it's absolutely crazy that she would blame OP for drinking and driving when she already finished half a bottle of liquor. Guys, our next story and our final story of the day is titled, Am I the a-hole for publicly telling my bio father that if he wanted to act like a dad, he had 32 years to do so? Here we go, final story of the day. My mother passed away a few months after I was born. My biological father, Dan, stayed for the first 6 years of my life, but he ended up remarrying and moving with his new wife across the country. He left me with my grandparents. Dan would, at best, visit every biannually. He would show up in the morning with some treats and video games for me, talk with me about life, then he would be gone after dinner. Dan visits became less frequent as I got older. I have many memories of my grandparents calling Dan when they thought I was asleep. They would beg Dan to visit me more and bring with me to Georgia, because a boy needs his father. I still adored Dan and saw him as my hero for many years. Dan stopped visiting me after, quote, I tried to ruin his marriage with my selfishness. Dan did not call me to wish me a happy 13th birthday, so I called him over and over, hoping that he just did not want to wake me up because of the time difference. His wife Sarah answered the phone. Sarah was actually a very sweet lady, and I discovered Sarah did not even know I existed. Dan told Sarah that he's been visiting California on business, and how he was childless. Dan screamed at me later saying how I deliberately tried to ruin his marriage, and how selfish I was to, quote, always demand his time. After that point, Dan stopped seeing me, and I view him as nothing more than a sperm donor. I live a pretty good life. My job's nothing to brag about in terms of being fun. but it's honest work and pays well. My wonderful wife and I have a little girl, Harper, who is the joy of my life. I tried not to think about Dan until I started getting notifications on social media. I did not think Dan had a social media. We also have a very generic surname, so I did not worry about us finding each other. Dan left comments on almost all of her posts about Harper, from her last day of 2nd grade to the newborn pictures. His comments all said how beautiful and bright his granddaughter was. I messaged Dan telling him he has no right to act like Harper's grandfather and to stay away from my family. He replied that Harper was his granddaughter and he gave me life, so I, quote, owe him some damn respect. I warned him again, then blocked him. I made a post the other day, and Dan, on a second account, made a comment about how Harper, quote, gets her good looks from her grandpa. I replied to Dan that if he wanted to act like my dad, he had until I was 32 to do so. And he has no right to pretend he's some great father and grandfather when he moved halfway across the country and left me with my grandparents at 6. I blocked Dan again. I learned secondhand that Dan is being shamed online and will likely delete his social media soon. Family members said I was right about Dan, but calling him out online was not the mature way to handle things. I realize I could have just blocked him, but for me, you don't get to ditch your kid and then swoop in to act like a family man that suits you. Am I the a-hole? The overwhelming pick for this story? Not the a-hole. Here's one of the top comments. This man pretends you did not exist for most of your life. And I'm sorry at how harsh that sounds. What right does he have now to have danced into your life and try to claim your daughter? Not the a-hole. You ruined his marriage? Nah, dude, he ruined it himself by keeping you a secret from his wife. His beautiful granddaughter? Oh, hell no. He has no claim on your children after disowning you. I agree with that comment, and it seems by the looks of it, 9,000 people also agree with it. Drop your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. The best way to support me is super simple. All you have to do to subscribe and click that like button. Okay, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful night.